Great. First of all, I want to say thank you to Mary Louise and to everybody in Kalamazoo. I've been so welcomed, I can't even tell you. Kalamazoo is now one of my favourite places. And I have been also really impressed by I saw the facilities in the art school, and they are world class. And so everybody who's studying art, or knows people who are studying art, or teaching art, it's astonishing. I hadn't heard of it before. So in this, we're going to travel some amazing places together, I hope. We're going to go to Afghanistan, we're going to go to Chile, we're going to go to India, and we'll have a very brief stop in a mercury mine in Spain, which is once the most feared prison place in Europe, in the world. And hopefully I'll tell you enough to be able to kind of talk about how you can go on journeys too. And that was one of the games that we played as we prepared this, which was, let's have a look at how you can travel through the Paintbox. But one of the things is really, they don't have to be very long journeys. And I'm going to start with a journey that anybody could have done maybe 3 years ago, and you'd have had to have gone no further than your computer or your smartphone. But you would have been part of something that actually changed the world's idea of the perception of colour. Do you remember that? And can I just do a quick survey? How many people see it as blue and black? Okay, that's actually more than half. Can we have a white and gold? I'm white and gold. Mary Louise, you see it as white and gold. Okay, for me, I cannot see it possibly as blue and black, but as you'll see, the dress in its flesh is blue and black. But there are few people that see it not as white and gold or blue and black. I don't know whether there's anybody here who sees it, actually they can switch it. Is there anybody here who can switch it? Yes, here we go. We've got one person. That's usually we have 1, 2 or 3 people who in their head can switch it. like that. And in a way that's the science of colour. That's obviously, it can be a duck, and it can be a rabbit, and then it can be a duck again. And according to the German who brought that to the attention and collected it, he said that the correct answer of to is it a duck is yes, no. There's another one here which could be a bunny rabbit or it could be a platypus. And again, fundamental to that is that we're all doing colour corrections in our head when we look at things. As artists in particular, they're doing it professionally, but all of us, we are making adjustments to what we think a colour is, according to how we're judging the light on it. So, Claude Monet, he rented a room in a lingerie store in Rouen, and he stayed there, and he would take the cathedral in all sorts of light. He would have 10 canvases on a time, and he would be busy painting one of them and then change the light and see how it happened. Now, we can see how they're all the same structure, and I think in our heads we can compensate for the colour changes. So in a way we can see those violet, red, and kind of yellow and blue. We can see those, and yet in our hearts or in our heads we know that that colour is still a limestone yellow, but with light upon it. And in a way that was what was happening with the dress, which I still cannot see as blue and black, not at all. But I'm imagining, my non-conscious brain is imagining, I know it's incredible, isn't it? But I'm imagining that there is a flash, that there is a light from behind coming in, which I think that I can see there, whereas you're automatically imagining a light, a flash gun from the front, and that would be the effect of this dress. And obviously what was happening, given that we've got it, is a flash gun from the front. But it's impossible to see. So that's a colour journey that you can take. It's about the stripes. And the stripes are, in some cultures, so sacred because they are perplexing our brains. And that's a Bridget Riley. But she saw how you can make a two-dimensional picture look three-dimensional, but also it can pick up a sense of colours. And I think I thought of writing a book about the dress until I realised how absolutely freaked all the experts in colour perception were, because it was completely changing their view of how generally people who didn't have issues of colour blindness and things like that all saw roughly the same thing, and clearly we don't. But I think that we can take from that we all see, that we can see colours in different ways and yet feel that we've got normal sight. So I'll just go back. I was looking at the Chicago Institute of Art, and I was looking at, for example, that dress. Is it white? Is it blue? And does it make a difference when we go in close and we don't have a context of the light? I mean, I'm pretty sure that's white. Actually, I haven't even checked. I think that's a white dress. Does everybody agree, or does anybody think it's a blue dress? No, we all think. You think it's a blue dress? Yeah. It's quite interesting how we can know that. And then there's one other. Again, is he wearing blue or white? And we go to the wider picture. Now that chap over there is definitely wearing white. So what colour is he wearing? So in order to travel through the Paintbox, what I found was it's easy to make journeys without purpose. I've made many of them myself. But I think that for me, travelling through the Paintbox really started with a question. And my question was formed when I was 8 years old. And I was in Chartres Cathedral having a look at not exactly that window, that's the rose window. I didn't first of all look at the window, I looked at the patterns that the light made when it shone through the window and onto the stone. It's a rich, buttery stone in Chartres. And you can see the beauty of those windows. And my father, he took me by the hand and he said, Toria, they made that blue 800 years ago and we don't know how to make it anymore. And I thought, oh, we can do television. I mean, obviously I'm quite old now, but we can do television. There's progress, scientific progress in everything I thought at the age of 8, which is that I know. And yet, how can we forget to make something as wonderful as that? So that was my initial question when I was a child. And at that point, I thought, one day, when I'm grown up, I'm going to find out about the colours. And writing this book, Colour, was part of that. But actually, after I wrote the book, I went to Canterbury Cathedral in southern England, one of the most sacred cathedrals in Britain. It was the place where Thomas à Becket was murdered, and it was made to be a centre of pilgrimage, such an important centre of pilgrimage. And 3 years ago, they took down the ancestor windows. We don't have much medieval stained glass in England, because during the Reformation, people destroyed it. So there was a lot of destruction of all churches, there was destruction of statues, there was decapitations going on, and a lot of broken glass. But Canterbury kept its ancestors, and they brought it down for restoration. And while it was brought down, it went on, some of the pieces went on a tour. They went to the Getty, actually, which helped finance the restoration of these beautiful windows. But I was really lucky, and I went there when one of the stained glass windows was in situ, being very carefully cleaned with little cotton buds, and it took ages, they said. And it was very interesting because, first of all, I was allowed to touch the glass. I wasn't allowed to. So I always used to think when I was younger that stained glass was called stained glass because it's stained in different colours, but that's not actually the stain. The stain is, that's the stain. So there, it's stained over coloured glass. So they would get pure coloured glass, and then they would stain it. But what was amazing about it was really bumpy. I mean, super, super bumpy. And as you ran your fingers along it, there was a huge curvature in that. And the woman who was in charge of the whole restoration of Canterbury said, that's the problem. The problem is that when we restore a little piece of little paint glass that's broken, we cannot get anybody to make it as imperfectly as the medieval stained glass makers made it. So this glass was made, probably made by French stained glass makers. They would come, and they would come in groups or families. They were artists. They would be paid to stay for 1, 2, 3 years making the glass. They would set up a camp by a forest so that they had loads and loads of wood to burn, and they would make this glass. And all of the imperfections and all of the clear materials to make the colours. Because we can make glass with cobalt as they did. But we can't make it in the same way with all of those little changes that means that it sparkles after rain. So I thought that we could start by starting exactly where you are now, because I was inspired by a dyeing program that Mary Louise has been doing here, and also by when I went 2 weeks ago to Alabama. I saw Jimmy Lee Siddon. He's an Alabama painter. He painted with anything he could find. I mean, he did a lot of mud. He collected kaolin in great buckets, but he found that he couldn't make the paint stick. So it was all right when it was wet, and it was really satisfying to put it on his canvases. Here's another one. But that in particular is mud. But what he couldn't do is make it stick, so he started to experiment. And he tried honey and molasses, he tried soot, he tried coffee grains. His wife really wondered where all the sugar was going. And so he started doing his work, which is obviously in the category of American folk art, and he used exactly what he had to paint exactly what he saw. And I think that's quite inspiring in terms of journeys. But this is what I saw today, which is a show that's up at around the corner. I haven't quite worked out my geography. And these are 3 students who used. Well, the brief was to use what they found to make different dyes. And this one, which is by Tony Caro, that he tried with carrots. And he boiled up carrots, and he then added some turmeric. And he made a colour that, honestly, obviously this is just phone photographs, but really in the flesh, that yellow is bright as anything. It's so bright, I think you'd not believe that it was made from natural ingredients. There's some blueberry there on that wonderful quilt that I understand, I don't know whether the students here, but I understand that she took home, and the women in the house showed her how to patch, and then they patched this beautiful piece. And that's made of all sorts of exploratory fibres. There's some dog hair in there that Queen dyed with blue. And then Nimadi Suchiami, who is still alive. I interviewed her 15 years ago when I was doing research for the book. And she is a Balinese artist using very local images, but well, there are two extraordinary things about her. And the first one is that she is a woman, and she wasn't supposed to be an artist. In fact, her father was a leading artist, and he was painting the ceiling of the royal palace. And she was 7 or 8 years old, and she said, I really want to do it. But she didn't have any brothers, so it was only girls. And he said, no, you're a girl, you can't do it. And she combated it by, she sat in her room, and she painted, and she painted, and she painted. And she said, by the time I was 9, I was ready. And she showed them these extraordinary paintings of epics and Hindu stories of great gods and drums and sun and demons. And they said, all right. I mean, he tried, apparently, he said, can't you just do a bit of weaving? And she said, no, I want to paint. So she was allowed to paint. And he used to take her to his secret store of paint. And what's unusual, and obviously Mary Louise is an expert in Indonesian paintings and textiles, but what's really unusual about this is not so much the images, it's the white paint. It's very bright, buttery, beautiful white paint. And it came, her father used to take it collecting from his secret store in the sea. They used to go to a place not far away from them, where there were rare turtles and a temple. And they used to tie it down, and they used to find the ballast that was left by pirates or sailors from the Celebes or Sulawesi. And those pirates would be coming in to trade with the local area, and when they didn't need the ballast, they would just drop it there. There was a causeway built in that place in the 1980s, and she said, this is my most precious, precious thing. She previously been buried into the garden so that nobody could steal it, because other artists were rather keen. But she said it was just so perfect, and I think that's one of the key things. I mean, but ceramicists here and artists, one of the key things is how perfect is the material? How much does it do what you want it to do? How much does that colour work as the transfer from the colour that you've got in your head to the colour that you can put on, for her, this is cotton cloth that is treated with rice. And for her, she couldn't imagine doing a painting without it. When she showed it to me, she had these great big keys, and she took me to the shed. And I said, you're feeling that nobody's going to steal it. And she said, no, the double was, I forgot where I buried it. I'm getting older and I don't trust my memory. She's still alive, so I hope she's still got some work to do. So another way that I found that it's quite powerful to travel through the world of Paintbox is looking at the gaps in between. And in a way, that's for any kind of travel, isn't it? You look at the question, you look at the gap, and you see where there are gaps. Maybe there's a swirl of interest, and that's where you can explore. And for me, that gap in my blue chapter came here. This is an unfinished painting, 1503, by Michelangelo. It's called The Entombment, and obviously it's not finished. Christ has died and he's being carried by cloths that seem to be wrapped around him. The artist hasn't yet given any kind of weight to him, so he actually seems oddly to be floating. But in the right-hand corner, I mean, there is no Mother of Christ. There is no Mary, no Mother of Christ in this painting. And almost certainly she should have been down there. And one of the theories, which I think is a really sound theory, is that the reason that she hasn't even been started, the others have been started, but she hasn't even been started, is because she needed to be painted in the most expensive paint that was available but wasn't gold, which was blue. And it was so expensive that Michelangelo couldn't afford to have it, so it would have to be brought in very carefully from the the donor, the patron, and he would have had to have actually said, you know, I'd ask you to do an entombment, and we will provide the gold and the blue paint. The blue paint, it's a bit blurry, but I couldn't get a better one, but it's actually, this is a really exciting manuscript, and it's about 1050. I know, it's astonishing. It could be, it's owned by the Getty, and we don't know because they haven't done all the research into it yet, but it could be the first known painting from Europe in Britain, using ultramarine paint, which is, you know, an astonishing thing, because then, when that simple manuscript, it's only about this big, was painted, this was a colour that had never been seen before. So the blue that Michelangelo painted came, I found out, from one mountain in Afghanistan. And it had come from that one mountain in Afghanistan. Almost all the blue in the world. There is a little bit of not good quality really in Chile, not comparatively good quality in Chile and in Africa, and there's a tiny bit in Siberia. And really none of it is as good as the lapis lazuli from Afghanistan. And it was called ultramarine, not because it was really the colour of sea. It was called ultramarine because it came from beyond. And this is just, I was just thinking, how did I do this? This was crazy. I had to do this journey to the book. If I was going to do a book on colour that did everything I wanted to do, I had to go. It was Taliban, I mean it's hard now, but Taliban times, Afghanistan was, I think, it was harder to get into than North Korea. And for a while things looked like they were going to go wrong. I was in London, I went to the embassy, they said no problem, of course you can get in. All you need is a letter from your embassy to say that you would like to apply for a visa. And I thought, that's not hard. And I went to the embassy, I lived in Hong Kong at the time, and I said, all we need is just a letter. And they said, that would mean that we were saying that you are a valid government. So we can't give you a letter because we don't believe that the Taliban is a legitimate government in Afghanistan. So sorry. And then a coincidence happened, and it was really odd. I had a friend of a friend, who went cycling down the Khyber Pass, and on the way she met a handsome Italian doctor. And as one does, she was pretty keen to meet him again. And he was working in Kabul as a UNICEF doctor. And he said, come to Afghanistan. And she really Afghanistan. So she asked me if I'd go with her. So we did, and we waited in Islamabad for 11 days for our visa number, which was, in the end, it was 5. Which shows that there weren't very many people in there. And we went in there, and Google wasn't as good then. It's really hard to tell where the military lines were. And I didn't realise until I got there that the military lines, we were on the wrong side of the military lines. But the following year, I did manage to go. Some friends that I'd met in Islamabad said that we'll try and get you on the UN flight that you'll pay for, but we'll try and get you on. Come, you might spend a few weeks with us, but let's see. So I arrived, we had dinner, and then at 7 o'clock in the morning, I was woken up by a telephone call saying, get there now, you can fly today. So I was, she said, go and help yourself to shower cameezes in my wardrobe, and so I found myself flying into the Northern Alliance territory, which is the 10% that Massoud was in control of. He was killed a few months later, and he was fighting against the Taliban. The word for axle in Dari is axle. Because as we were driving with this rented Russian Jeep, this is a word that we heard a lot, axle. And we stopped. slept with a villager. The people were so persistent and they didn't have much, but they shared what they had. And it was very clear. I think anybody, even optimists like me, looking at that axle, can see that it's not going anywhere. And it wasn't. So what they said is it's 30 kilometres you can walk. And I was quite pleased because actually, I'm a writer. I don't want it to be that easy to sort of zoom through 30 kilometres in whatever 2 hours that it would take. So I was very pleased for that reason. And also because that track, those places, those are ancient tracks. Those are 6,000 years old. That people have been travelling with donkeys and packs along those very roads. And I had in my backpack a photocopy of an 1850s journey by a man called John Wood. And John Wood had walked along that very road, so I was following him. And John Wood's boot broke. And as we left this village place, say goodbye to the Jeep with the axle, I said to my boot, I mean, when do you ever talk to your boot? I said, you're a good boot. Moments later, the boot started flapping. And I thought, oh no, I can't believe it. It's a good boot, and now it's just given up on me. So I was, like John Wood, I was walking along with a flapping boot. But that meant that I went very slowly. And we'd had a question, which is, you can see these mountains. They're huge mountains, part of huge mountain ranges. So what made people know that there was blue? And that's the point at which I realised that we were crossing a street. So I pulled up my. Normally I would dress completely down, but there were. It was deep, the water, so I just pulled up my things. And there it was, a bluish stone. It was really magical and really clear. I mean, this isn't stone, because actually this is better stone. Because when you're walking, you shed things. So I didn't keep that original stone. But here's a stone which I'll just pass around, because that's a piece of blue that was made into ultramarine paint, the most valued pigment in the world. I'll just show you a few more pictures from that journey. In that place is a bed behind me, and as we posed for that, I felt something in my back. So I said, "Ow, what is that?" And they said, "Oh, it's a machine gun." And I went, "Wow, a machine gun!" And they said, "Yeah, we've all got them." So that was the kind of environment. You can see that's Sar-e-Sang, which means the place of the stone. That's the stone it's talking about. It was a village that was inhabited only by men. In Afghanistan, because they need separate accommodations for women and men, this was a working village, so they didn't bring their families. These men were living there for months and months and months. It was a very poor place. It was a very poor place at any time, but at that time it was famine. So a lot of them were trying to send any money home that they could get. They were in a war zone, and these mountains, they caused lung disease, so there was a lot of lung disease there. And I just thought I'd show you. That's how they find the lapis now, in scenes that look like that. In the past, what they did, before they had this equipment, was they would light, it was quite a walk, I was puffing and panting, and it took us quite a few hours to go up. But kids were just running up like mountain goats, and they would run up from the river, which was icy cold, and they would have this icy cold water, and they would light a fire. The fire would be heating the rocks, and then it would be chucked with effectively almost ice, and that would make it shock into splitting. And it was, if you can imagine, that was an incredibly noxious way of getting the stone out. It was also really dangerous. It still is dangerous. Dynamite was used very freely there. All very good drills. That's what they got out. And that is Yaqub Khan, the government inspector, whose job was to check to see how good those stones are. And when I was at his house having tea, they explained that there are three kinds of the lapis that would make the ultramarine. There's one that they call Rani Ob, the colour of water, and there's another that they would call Rani Sabj, which means the colour of vegetables. And actually you can see little bits of really lettuce-like green, tiny little dots of it if you look closely. But the best one of all was called Surpa, which is the colour at the centre of the flame. And you can see on that, in fact here really, this ultraviolet, almost ultraviolet, extraordinary colour. That was the most valued colour in the world. It was difficult to find, even when you got loads of this. You know, they've got loads of stuff, all the men were bringing it optimistically, and only a few bits, wetted, would be worthy of being called surpa, and therefore would be worthy of having that kind of attention. And Dura, there was a letter that Dura wrote with real annoyance that he couldn't even get a pound of ultramarine for 100 florins, which was a huge amount of money. So that was, I guess, when artists in the Renaissance and afterwards got together, one of the things they would be talking about would be the horrible price of pigments. And I just wanted to show you this, because this is Bacchus and Ariadne. There's Bacchus with a very beautiful robe looking down wild. He's followed by all his followers who are wilder and quite groggy, quite like a tap in the tree. But there is Ariadne, and she's saying goodbye to her lover, Theseus, who's in a boat there. And yet her attention, and she's saying goodbye to her lover, her attention is drawn by this rather handsome and dangerous god who's about to seduce her, obviously. And but you can see in the blues, first of all, the blues he uses very strongly in the sky and in her robe. But this green, this blue, the sea, that's not ultramarine. That's azurite, which is a much easier to get material. But they sometimes used to call it citra marina, which is not over the seas, but close by. So that was a much cheaper blue, and you can see there the difference. And it's quite fun when you go to art galleries and you have a look at Renaissance and medieval painting. It's quite fun to have a look at the blues that they chose and see whether you can guess what they used, and therefore how valuable it was, because it was really like having dollar signs posted on your religious painting, or later, of course, your portrait and your portraits to show how very wealthy you are. Yves Klein, French artist. In 1947, Yves Klein was a young man with a lot of dreams when he went to the Riviera with two friends. It was close to where he lived, so it wasn't as exotic or luxurious as it sounds. And they lay on the beach and they said, if we could divide the universe, what would you have? And his friend Armand said that he would have the Earth. And their friend Claude Pascal and Armand became an artist. Pascal said that he would have all of the words, and he became a writer, and Yves Klein said that he would have the sky. And although he became an artist, he was very much a conceptual artist. He couldn't draw. And when he decided that he would become an artist, and he realized that he couldn't draw, he created this book, and it was a little book, like a catalogue, and it was called The Paintings of Yves Klein. And he did one kind of monochrome, little monochrome, as a print, and he said Tokyo. And then he did another monochrome in a different colour, and he said Paris, and then another Paris, 1952, and then he did another monochrome. So he created this whole world of being an artist before he was an artist. He did go to art school, and he he sent in an orange monochrome. And the teachers were like, if you could just add a spot of colour, we can pass you. And he said, no way, no spots. And he experimented with different things. In 1957, he invited all sorts of people, the wealthy and the artistic people of Paris, and he invited them all with a very nice invitation to a show that he called La Vie, the Void. And people came, and it was in this new gallery that they hadn't heard of. There were blue curtains at the windows, and they gave their invitations, and they walked in, and there was absolutely nothing in there. It was the Void, La Vie. Later on, however, the reason I'm going to talk about him now is because he fell in love with blue, with that particular ultramarine blue. It had been synthesized by that time. In the 1820s, there was a big competition that the French held, and in fact, a French scientist and a German scientist, Finlay, they seemingly found a solution to synthesizing ultramarine paint at the same time, but it was a French competition. Anyway, the French scientists won, so it's now known as French ultramarine. And Yves Klein, he found a way of suspending it, and I wrote down what the thing was. It was, I never remember, it's quite a complicated little, Rhodopass M60A, right? That's the chemical that he used to suspend it. But what he did with that was he patented the method of suspending it, suspending the pigment in a kind of gel that hardened. And he created these very astonishing pieces that are just monochrome, but they do shine. And I think, in a way, what he's playing with is the thing that really made artists in the medieval times and the Renaissance really loved that blue. And in a way, he achieved it by this blue that he called his name, YKB, Yves Klein Blue. Now, I don't know how we're doing. How are we doing? Will you kind of stand up and tell me 5 minutes before, and then I can zoom through it to make it easier. This is something that I knew, but it really struck me when I wrote my second book, which is my second book on colour, which is this book, which was written by for the Getty. It was designed for teenagers upwards. It's got some great colour illustrations. It's got some good stories, and adults apparently enjoyed it as well. And for that, I looked at a rather amazing story. 1940, mid-southern France, and the Germans are not very far north, but not in this area yet. And 4 teenagers, and that dog was called Robot, they went out on an expedition. They were all the oldest one was working, and then there were, he's 18, Marcel, and then 3 others were like 13 and 14. And they went with him because he found a hole under a root that apparently Robot had been digging up, and then there was this weird hole. So they came back on a Sunday with a torch, with a flashlight, translate, and a shovel, and all sorts of things. And they dug into that root, and apparently they slid down 40 feet on their bottoms, and they found themselves in that cave. And that cave is Cave System. And 17,000 years ago, some people, and they must have had some kind of scaffolding. You can see the size of a man in there, and they made these astonishing works of art. And in terms of paintings, these are really major finds. They're beautiful and sophisticated, and nobody knows what they were for. I mean, were they spiritual? Were they wishing good luck to hunters? Were they entertainment? were they what you did with the teenagers during a long winter? Nobody would know. But the colours, I mean, you can see there's red, which local, you can find that kind of ochre red, iron-rich red in the area around. It's got yellow, which you can, the two are quite compatible because you find the yellow and then you burn it and it becomes the red. Black mostly can be charcoal, which is again burnt wood, so you can do that. And white is kaolin, it's clay, it's chalk. But in 2000, they've done something extraordinary, and between the horns of the great bull, they found a different kind of black. It's called manganese black. It was, again, in terms of the search for good colours, manganese black is a better black, is a richer, dewier, stronger black than charcoal, and it probably lasted a lot longer. But the odd thing was, it didn't come from anywhere near. It came from 150 miles away in the Pyrenees. And although you can synthesize it, it's almost certain that they could. You've got to get the materials up to such a high temperature you couldn't possibly do that in an ordinary fire. So here, something fascinating was revealed, which is that artists, even then, somebody must have valued it enough to bring it, whether they traded it across, whether they exchanged it, whether they bought it. That paint must have been valued. Somebody brought it there. So that is quite exciting, but something really weird happened. So the boys found it, and then within minutes, within a few weeks, they were charging entry for people to come and have a look, and they made quite a nice amount of money. And they brought some experts in. There was an expert who was staying not far away. They all survived the war, the boys, including Simon, who was the youngest, and he was Jewish, but he managed to survive. But it didn't take long. They put electric lights in, and it was really soon that people started to notice that the colours were changing. They were changing really rapidly. It was the electric light and the breath of all the people who were coming in. And it was so serious, you can't go, none of us go in there now. They've created a mock cave. I mean, I don't know, it's a very interesting question, isn't it? Would you go into a mock cave that looks kind of the same, it's really cleverly done, but in a way, what that Lascaux cave reminds us is that, okay, so that was an extreme example of how people and light can change things. But, I mean, as you'll see in textiles, particularly, any viewing, any switching on of light will make a piece of artwork change. So, in a way, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't, it means that we must. And we must be really grateful for the time that we've got with these colours, doing all their colourful things, because people in the future might not know. That's from Altamira, which when these paintings were found, they thought that the landowner was making it up because they thought that early artists couldn't possibly be so sophisticated. Curious. That's the fun thing about travelling through the Paintbox, or having a mission, or having a passion, is keep on being curious and keep on asking questions. And sometimes the odd questions can make the best answers. Those are Pokemani holes from the Tiwi Islands, north of Darwin in Australia. They're very small islands. Tiwi means we the people, and for a while they thought they were the only people. And there weren't very many of them, so they had to have a really elaborate way of making sure that nobody married too close, so that there was a real sense of people staying far away. So they divided themselves into moieties, but they called these moieties by the names of the colours. So there was the red moiety, and they were the sun. There was the yellow, and they were mullet, or fish. There was the white, which was pandanus, which was a bush that was used for basketry, and there was black, which was stone. All of the colours, all of those colours were found in different locations in the Tiwi Islands, so people would go walking around. But reds, we've only married yellows and whites, and they couldn't marry people who were from the black or the red moiety. And there was an in-depth sense of being able to paint those colours on your face. She, Doreen Tabura, she was painting the dreaming of the big sheep, little sheep. And I wanted to know if it was good to have an original paint on my face, so I asked her if she would mind doing it. And she did it. And what's interesting, she did her big sheep, little sheep dreaming on my face. But it's interesting to see that actually, automatically, she had changed the tonality from my colour face, from her colour face. So actually, in a way, it was as if it wasn't just the colours that mattered, it was the effect the colours had against the background on which they were painted. That's where ochre used to come from in Europe, in the south of France. So those places in Europe were places that stone would travel to make pigments very far into Italy. You can go to England rather than the UK. And in Australia, while, I mean that's a creek, while there were colours in creek beds, just like that, there were just a few mines in Australia where the ochre, the red ochre, was sacred and dangerous. And although you can go to those places, they've set out like museum boards and things like that, they don't say why that ochre is dangerous. But you can look back at archaeological texts and see what kind of interviews were done 100 years ago in the past where people would speak about it. And obviously blood is one of the reasons. But actually this red ochre, the sacred red ochre, is not there, and I don't have a photograph of it. It was sacred, I think, because it shone. It was so full of life in it that in a way it believed that ochre had life. People would walk, there were pilgrimage training expeditions, people would walk right across Australia every year to go and pick it up. They trade it on the way back for this tobacco chewing, which apparently has the effect of coffee, of like 10 cups of coffee, it tastes like shit, is what somebody said. But that's again really valuable. That was one of the most expensive paintings ever, painted not with sacred ochre by Robert Thomas, and it sold for $786, $625. The head of the Australian National Gallery, I think, was visibly sweating when he came back from a secret telephone that he'd been sitting in behind the scenes and for Australia. And following the money. How are we doing? Right. Okay, so I'm going to do very quickly. That's textiles that are made from snails that you can find on the coast still. And in this village, the ladies, the older women, wear purple skirts every day. But they've got different ones. They've got different purple skirts Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And that was the red, which came from Chile. And there was a huge problem in the early 1600s where so many tons were coming over into Seville. Twice a year, people would dance in the streets because the fleet would join in Cuba and ships would come over, and so much would come because you could make this most astonishing red that you couldn't have made before. that was, if anybody, if we'd been swept back to 1623, and anybody had walked in with that colour, we would have all known that they were the richest person around. So there was huge problems. That's what the Cochineal Foundation looks like. And that's the ground of Cochineal, which was, again, Cochineal is a fantastic guy, but it is rubbish. That, when I saw it in your National Gallery, in the National Gallery in Washington, D.C., that poster was labelled White Roses, but that was before they realised that once upon a time, all the roses were really bright pink. And so now they, I think, either just call it roses, or sometimes you see it, I saw it from Wikipedia today, as pink roses. So, and that shows how that beautiful pink does come up. I think, shall I stop here?
Sure.
Yeah,
So I'm wondering if you might have questions for Victoria. Happy to answer anything at all.
and if you don't know, just keep going. Oh, good question. So I've just been commissioned to write a book on fabric. So it will be like this colour book, and I wrote another one about jewels, travelling around the world looking at fabric. So next week, making use of this wonderful trip to Kalamazoo, I'm going to go to Boston, to North Boston, a place called Lowell, where there was, that's where the American Industrial Revolution really started, with cotton. But the story, which I am going to check before I write this book, anyway, the story that I'm running with at the moment is that Francis Cabot Lowell was a young man, well educated, Harvard, nicely connected, and he went to Lancashire where there were new cotton technology mills that was taking really the textile world by storm, and he wasn't really allowed it, but he spoke well connected, nice young man. And he went in and he memorized the whole damn thing and brought back the secret technology to America. So I'm going to go to Lowell and have a look. And it was also great because, although obviously the conditions weren't brilliant, so I will find out about that, it did give women work that they wouldn't have otherwise had. So it gave women something that they could do, quite tough work. So the mill girls were quite sort of wild, and I think they were all hanging out in their boarding houses. But in Boston, they've got Francis Cabot Lowell's Harvard Diaries. So I really want to have a look at them, see how, so I don't know, see how brilliant he was, to see whether there's any sign of that determination, or even, gosh, it would be wonderful to find an example of how he memorized it. Yes?
So what's the lapis used for?
So, lapis is really decorative. It doesn't have a great deal of use. I mean, it is, some artists are prepared to pay, I can't remember how much, but anyway, for a very small amount of pure lapis francanti, like $200. They make it into semi-precious jewels. It's difficult, really, because obviously there's quite a lot of people. I'm sure that some of those men or their sons or other people are still there doing exactly the same thing, and still it hasn't got the charm that it had. I think it's a beautiful stone, but it's dull when it's here. And it also, I bought some in a silver ring or something like that, and then accidentally I ran it and I dumped it in a silver watch, and then it went all kind of mottled and rubbish. So I think, with all these kind of chemicals, it doesn't work brilliantly, although people try. And there's a little bit of, I think Windsor and Newton makes just a little bit of artist paint, particularly for conservative people, because they have to have it. They can make away with synthetic prints, which is beautiful. It's got that beauty that we saw in the play, but also going back to the stained glass, it's got a problem. It doesn't have the imperfection that really makes the beauty.
process was of taking a stone and turning it into a paint.
I'm so sorry.
The process of taking a stone and turning it into a paint. So how did that add cost to it or value?
Okay, so I'm going to read to you this, and you'll see why I'm reading it to you. Because it's really complicated, and I had to, there's a more complicated thing, right? A secret recipe for ultramarine blue. And this is, it's in a more complicated way that way. So first take a chunk of the best lapis lazuli. Remember for a minute just how expensive it is, so you have to treat it with respect. Pound it with a bronze mortar, cover it up so the dust doesn't float away. Then put it on a slab and work it up. Sieve and pound it again and again and again. You melt pine resin, gum, mastic and wax. Strain it with a linen cloth, make a dough, then grease your hands and you dough it and dough it and dough it until the finest powder comes off. And that's the first quality. And then you keep pounding it, and then that's the second quality. It's really hard work. And it wasn't, there were attempts to make it into paint as opposed to beautiful inlays into tables. The ancient Egyptians used it in temples. But there was an attempt, there was an early tomb painting in, I think, the second dynasty, anyway, 2,000 years before Christ. There was an attempt to use lapis as a thing, but it came out grey. So it wasn't until they invented this in about the 6th century. And in fact, see, things are kind. Even though I'd gone completely the wrong side of the firing line in Afghanistan the first time when I went to Kabul, there was Bamiyan, which is the place where the Buddhas came from. And the Buddhas were about to be destroyed, but they hadn't been destroyed then. This was April, I think, and the Buddhas were destroyed in May. And it was quite dangerous to go there, but I couldn't get to the blue mine, so I had to do something. So I went with an NGO who was based there, and we were able to climb up the Buddhas. Behind them there were stairs, and the Buddha's head was I guess from you to here. It was quite big. 180 feet tall. They're really, really tall, and they were made in the 6th century. And above their heads there were some frescoes, and those frescoes were the earliest known use of ultramarine blue as paint. It must have been invented. It was probably invented around that time, which would make sense because it was really close to where they came from. Yes.
So in terms of works of art, you said that all these things can change the color. So time and light and human breath and all these things. So is what we're seeing here, the thing obviously different than what the artist painted, but is it different than what the artist intended, or are we seeing something, a different work of art entirely than what the artist painted? Or, I don't know, does that make any sense?
No, it makes total sense. And what's really interesting is now we are used to seeing stuff on our computers and our smartphones, and we can look at that and think, I know what Renoir's lake is, or I know what Van Gogh's roses, pink roses, white roses, whatever roses, I know what they look like. But we don't, because there was an exhibition on colour in the National Gallery in London a few years ago, and at the end we came out and there was an experiment, and it was an experiment with prints and with this kind of stuff, and with the real painting. So they had a real painting, and then they had a print that was made to colour match, and that was good, and you couldn't really tell. And then they changed the lights. The lights, they changed the fluorescence, they changed the warmth, they changed it to daylight, and oh my God, it was completely different. And I think that's one of the reasons that it's so great to have, well, it's so important to see real art, because I think otherwise it'll be too easy to say, oh look, there's a vase, and there's green, and there's a flower, and I guess you can see how he's done the light and the dark. how he's created a sense of body for that thing. But you can't actually see the art in anywhere at all. You see it.
Yeah.
I guess it's like live music, recorded music. The two sound really similar, but they're not the same.
Did the exhibit also show the piece in, say, Paintbox?
It showed, yeah, there was a projection and there was it was a print, it was a good, well-made print, and it just showed me really for the first time how you can't compare. And it's also really interesting. You've got some great pieces at your Institute of Art, and you've got some pieces that are really, I can't remember, the blue colour piece, and it's incredibly textured, and you can really only appreciate it when you see it, because I'm sure that you see however good a professional picture was. And I tried to take a picture of it just to illustrate that actually, and you know, you could possibly even illustrate how you could possibly illustrate. Yes.
Could you say more about the palette of the Getty Anglo-Saxon League? Were you exclusively interested in the blue, or were you interested in more?
So in the Getty, that's a good question, in the Getty Anglo-Saxon manuscript, I saw that, it's online, and so you can see it better than you can when that I took from the online, but it's not high quality enough. I think that the most important thing about that really, I mean, it's a nice depiction of Christ, but I think really to see that wash of such a rare paint. There's somebody doing, I think the manuscript curator is doing a study of it now, so hopefully that'll be out and we'll see whether it is indeed the earliest. But it is, I mean, it's astonishing for us, you know, 1066 is our kind of cut-off point when England was invaded, and this precedes that. This came before that, and we've got very little art. Not surprisingly, there isn't. We've got Viking and Saxon burial goods, but we don't have anything with that kind of bright colours in that way. But I don't know what she's discovered, and I wasn't sadly able to put in this book because we haven't been finding it yet. If we've still got a couple of minutes, because I thought that there's a few neat things that I had learnt since I did the colour book, and some of them I did there. But in the first book, I tell a story from a writer that it was quoted from somebody else who didn't have a reference, so I just used them as a reference. Openly, it's obvious. But it talks about a writer who witnessed the funeral of some paint tubes, and those paint tubes contain a paint called Mummy Brown. And Mummy Brown was literally made from the mummies of Egyptians who had died a long time before, from the 15th. It is amazing, isn't it? From the 1500s, the people would come and scoop all of these mummified remains. Again, going back to that texture thing, it was really beautiful, pixely, crumbly, textured, brown. People loved it, and I found the reference before I read this book, and it was Catholic, Roger Kipling. When he was, his parents lived in India, and he came over to school when he was a little boy, and his uncle was Edward Burne-Jones, one of our great pre-Raphaelite artists. So young Rudyard would go and stay with Uncle Edward, and he remembered one day his uncle appeared in a doorway holding these tubes of paint, and he said, "I've just found out that Mummy Brown is made of dead bodies." And they had some visitors. They had the Alma Tademers, who were also Renaissance, pre-Raphaelite artists there, and the family. And so they hosted a funeral, and they had music, because the ancient Egyptians believed that in the body is the car, K-A, not like the car, which needed to be buried. So they had this procession around the garden, they had drums and music, and then they buried these tubes in the garden. And he wrote in his autobiography, he said, "Forever onwards, through my life, I will not forget where those tubes are buried in that garden."